Welcome to the Self-Publishing School podcast. This is the podcast to listen to if you're an aspiring writer or an author who wants to be more successful. On this show, you'll learn how to write and launch a book successfully, all from the top authors and people just like you who are doing it at the highest level. I'm your host, Chandler Bolt, the founder of Self-Publishing School, the author of the book called Published, and the CEO of selfpublishing.com. For free training on how to publish a book that sells 10,000 copies, go to selfpublishing.com/free training. Hey, Chandler Bolt here, and joining me today is Allan Dib. Allan is a serial entrepreneur, a rebellious marketer, and the number one best-selling author of a wildly popular marketing book. You may have heard of it. It's called The One-Page Marketing Plan. He started and grown multiple companies, successfully exited multiple companies in various industries. And he's really passionate about helping businesses find new and innovative ways to leverage technology and marketing to grow their business. So today we're going to be talking about how his book sold so well. Spoiler alert, it's got over 4,000 reviews on Amazon and is as I look right now, still a number one bestseller in the global marketing category. And we're also going to be talking about his concept of a one-page marketing plan and how you can create a one-page marketing plan for your book as an author. This is going to be fun. Allan, welcome. Great to have you here.
Hey, Chandler, pleasure for me on.
Yeah, so I want to start with why did you write this book? Like, why was this something that was important to you, and where did the impetus of the idea come from?
Well, it was a concept before it ever was a book. So I was working with my clients, and I wanted them to create a marketing plan. And as a coach, I would encourage them, I would guide them, but I got a lot of pushback. Too hard, too difficult, don't know where to start, don't know what to do, too expensive, all of that sort of stuff. And I think to some extent they were right. The marketing plan is a big undertaking, and so I created a process where they could create a marketing plan literally in a single page where 20, 30 minutes they could go through the guided steps to create a marketing plan. And it was incredibly successful. So with my clients, people who'd never had a marketing plan before, now we're creating marketing plans for their business. And so I wrote the book after that, after I saw the success of the actual concept. And, for me, I wrote the book I wish I had when I was starting to in my first business, because I attended every conference, every seminar, I had coaches, and I got value from each one of them. I'm not putting any one of them down, but there was nothing that took me from literally zero. For context, I was a dead broke IT geek. I was good at what I did, but I had no idea how to get a client. I knew computers, I knew technology, all of that. I had no idea how to get a client in the door. And so for me, I wrote the book for someone who was in my shoes and where we literally assume nothing. In the book, I literally have a section where I give the definition of marketing. So we go from there to really finishing up where you can create a direct response marketing strategy, a sophisticated one in 9 steps.
That's great. I love that. And I love you and I feel like are aligned on so many things, and one of which, you're a systems guy. And so I love that this started with a system and a framework that then became the book. And so any tips for folks who are either in a one-on-one coaching environment, in a consulting environment, or maybe they're, running an agency or like some sort of business where they're helping clients on how to bubble up a framework from something that you're teaching all the time? Because I think that's inherent probably from your IT background or maybe just the way that you think, but it's I think for a lot of people that can be difficult.
I see the framework as being really the cornerstone of your thought leadership ecosystem. So not just your book, but your course, everything that you're going to do. And when I'm working and coaching other thought leaders, that's really what we work on. We're like, what's your framework? What's going to be the thing that you're famous for? For me, it's the one-page marketing plan. For Michael Gerber, it was the E-Myth. Then there's the blue ocean strategy. There's profit first, all of that sort of stuff, right? So there's a framework. And so when you've got a framework, the sections of your framework can become the chapters of your book, the modules of your course, the months or weeks of the delivery of your course or your certification or whatever you do. So So I think the framework is the cornerstone in my view, because, it's nice to read a book where, it's someone's experience or someone's opinion or whatever, but I want to feel like, especially in the nonfiction space, I want to read a book and think, okay, this is what I need to do next. And so many times I've read a book where it's a really cool book and there's really cool ideas and concepts, but I get to the end and I'm like, okay, well, what do I do now? Like, I'm left with like, okay, nice book, but what now?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so a framework I think really fills that gap and has the ability to go beyond the book. It's where people can go
Yes.
to the course, the whatever, the
So great.
event. Yeah,
And it takes it takes it from an idea to actual IP, right? Intellectual
absolutely.
property that where you are now stamping, putting your flag down on this idea, but then also, and I love that you touched on this, is it helps bridge from reading to action. So it
Yes.
makes your book more impactful for the reader. So that's awesome. Let's talk about like the marketing side of things, and I want to use your book as kind of a case study, or just talk
Sure.
about what's worked well, and then I want to circle back to an actual one-page marketing plan. So,
That's
why do
right.
you think this book sold so well? Like, what's worked to sell copies? I mean, I'm looking. It's sold unbelievably well, and it's not very common for someone to write one book, and it's their first book, and it's just like gangbusters. So what's your secret, man? How is this sold so well?
Well, it'd be embarrassing to write a marketing book and not sell many copies,
Yeah,
but
right.
right, but I'll tell you what my thought process was in the beginning. So I'm going to tell the folks the good news and the bad news. So I'll start with the bad news. The bad news is a lot of people listening to this are like, all right, tell me the one weird trick, the one weird hack or whatever that made this blow up. And the bad news is that there isn't one, right? It's kind of like one weird trick to lose belly fat or whatever. There isn't one weird trick to lose belly fat. You've got to get your ass into the gym. You've got to eat right. All of that, right? So forget about all these hacks and tricks and all of that, right? So the way I was thinking about it is, and this is from what I've seen, is opposite to the way a lot of authors think about their book. A lot of authors think about their book as art. So, and the marketing is kind of almost beneath them. Like, it's like, if the book's good enough, if we build it, they will come. And sometimes that does happen. Sometimes there's something that just connects, something that's really topical or whatever, but that's kind of like a random act, that's like, we can't predict that. So for me, I viewed writing the book not as art, but as a product launch. So, and that's very, very different. So a lot of authors, I've seen authors who will spend 5 years, 10 years writing a book, and then they spend 3 months promoting it. They're on the podcast circuit, they're on the speaking circuit, and then that's it. They move on to their next book or whatever. For me, it was important that this be a perennial bestseller, and to do that, we had to continually be when we still are marketing it, like literally every single day. Me and my team, we think about how are we going to get this book out into more hands, to more people. And for me, that was incredibly important. And so I treat this like a product. I don't treat this like a piece of art. I don't treat this like as a one-shot kind of thing. I spend more time, more money, more energy promoting it now than I did when we first launched it. And that's how it gains momentum. Now that's part of it. The second part of it, and that is that it's just a really good book, right? Like, it's a good hook, it's a good book. And so that creates a life of its own where people recommend it, people share it. Every single day, we've got people who ask, how can we send bulk copies to our clients or whatever? Now, people wouldn't do that if that was a crappy book, right? So that's an important part, that you're actually creating a good product, but that's not the whole part of it. You need to have a good product and you need to promote it, which is
Yeah,
important.
and I love that you mentioned that, because this is what I call like the Toyota Camry versus the sports car book launch. It's like most people treat a book launch like a sports car. It's sexy, it goes fast, they use all
Yeah,
this fuel and energy, but then
yeah,
it's going in a flash, right? The Toyota Camry just keeps chugging. And so you speak to the mindset of long-term promotion and not
yeah,
just the short-term fly-by launch. But then
absolutely.
also, I think in what you spoke to, which I'd love to you to speak more on this, is a good hook and a good book.
Yeah.
because I think that is in itself, it's the purpose of what you teach, and you talk about this in your book. Is like the hook is what gets people to buy. It's kind of
Yeah.
like the marketing, and then
Exactly.
the quality product is what gets them to refer, to come
Yeah.
back, to buy more. So can you speak to that of why having a good product isn't enough, and why this is important? Kind of your thoughts here.
Well. There's two things that you need to have a hit product, or even a hit book, anything, a course, a widget, anything, right? So you need to have a good product, because that's going to keep retention, right? That's going to keep people from refunding, from writing bad reviews, from not recommending it. So the product needs to be good, and I think most people understand that. But most people stop there. They think, hey, build it. If we build it, they will come. The product will take a life of its own. And like I said, that happens sometimes, but it's rare. Most of the time in life, we don't get what we deserve. We get what we negotiate, right? So having a good product is great for customer retention, for reader retention, for people to refer books to other people. But before we think about customer retention, we need to think about customer acquisition. And so the second component is the marketing or the distribution. And that's really having a good strategy for how am I going to get this in as many hands as possible? What's going to make people see the title and say, hey, that's for me? What's going to make me show up in Amazon when someone searches for something, because Amazon is really a search engine. So all of those things, you want to think those things through. So yes, write a really good book, incredibly important, but now we need to think through the marketing side. What's going to get people to say yes? What's going to get people to click? What's going to get people to find us in search results? All of those sorts of things need to be thought through. It's incredibly important. And so kind of starts with the title. I like, I know it's sort of in vogue to do all of these kind of weird titles where, those one word titles that are really hard to understand or whatever. And maybe that's okay if you've already got a big audience and people will just buy whatever you're selling anyway. That's fine. But for me, I was literally an unknown. Nobody knew me from a bar of soap. So for me, it was incredibly important that, and I can still, by the way, I can still walk through airports safely without being mobbed by by a crowd. So no problems there. But for me, it was incredibly important that someone read the title and it be completely obvious what this is, and it be like, hey, wow, I need this. Yeah.
Yes. And it's clear, not clever.
Yes, clear, not clever. Absolutely.
So important. Hey, Chandler Bolt here. I hope you're loving this episode so far. It's time to go from inspiration to implementation. All right, so if you've learned something, we want to help you implement what you've learned with your book. So what I want you to do right now is go to selfpublishing.com/schedule, book a publishing consultation with one of the experts on my team. We'll talk about your goals for your book, your dreams, your challenges, your next steps, and we'll start putting together a plan. All right, so go to selfpublishing.com/schedule, book a call with the team. Let's see how we can help with your book. It's time to implement. So I love that you spoke to the mindset. You spoke to the hook, and the title being clear. You spoke to writing a great book, and then that kind of once you pour water into the bucket, it's not a leaky bucket, and that keeps going. Anything else, like if you think of, like, if we go tactical for a second, or even more so, I guess it's just like, if you look back, are there one or two things that move the most?
Absolutely. So and I follow reader. I get reader email every single day, and I love that. I don't think many marketing consultants get fan mail, so it's kind of cool to get that. But one of the things that keeps coming back is I really wrote the book so that anyone at any reading level could understand. I use short sentences, easy to understand words and phrases. It's not written in an intellectual academic way. I've read authors where their concepts are so great, but they are so hard to read because they're very intellectual, very academic. They're using weird words and phrases. And, I think I read above a normal person's reading level, and I still had to keep going back to the dictionary and thesaurus and what does this mean and what so I think most people read and write at about a 12-year-old's level, and so just understanding that. So using short sentences, easy to understand words. I was reading the other day that that's part of the success of James Patterson, one of the top-selling authors in the whole world. His stuff is just so easy to understand and read. He uses short sentences, short words, doesn't use weird words and phrases and all of that. So I think that was very important. The other thing I think the book is almost like a course. There's action items, there's worksheets that I refer them to. So I always thought, how can I get people beyond the book? Because, as you and I know, Amazon doesn't give the data of the readers, who's reading the book. You really don't know. So how can we get them onto our own platform, capture email addresses, give them value beyond the book? So I think that's incredibly important as well.
Great. Those are great tips. And it's like the copywriting, one of the fundamental rules of copywriting is write at a fourth grade level, because if someone can't understand it, confused people don't buy.
Yeah.
So this is a great point. Hey, your book has, as I'm looking right now, 4,197 reviews on Amazon. How'd you do it? Anything that you did that led to that, or that helps you maximize reviews?
Yeah. So part of my autoresponder is so when people opt in, I ask them to write a review. When people write fan mail in, I'll reply to their fan mail, and in the PS, I'll say, PS Chandler, I'd really appreciate if you left me a review on Amazon. It helps with the rankings. And so people love interacting with authors. And so I will reply back to readers, and I think a lot of authors, it's kind of like a one-way street. And I like to interact with my readers because, it really keeps me on the pulse of what's happening in the marketplace. What are people asking? What is the information that's coming back? And people love hearing back from an author. And so if you've taken the time to reply to an email, I think 9 times out of 10 people will say, yeah, of course, I'll leave you a review. Thank you so much. So I ask for it, and I ask for it multiple times. So it's one of those things. One of the best ways to get what you want in life is to ask for it. And I do, and I get
it. Nice. Hey, let's walk through the one-page marketing plan as a concept. So first off, and then we'll talk about how it's applicable to authors and how we can use it to sell more books. So what is it? What is the one-page marketing plan? I know it's a big question.
It is a big question, but if you visualize, and I'm not sure if people will be watching this or listening to this, if you're listening to this, then imagine a single page. And it's split up into 9 squares, so 3 blocks of 3. And so the first 3 blocks are concerned with what we call the before phase. It's when we're dealing with people who just don't know that we exist. And the whole goal of this phase is to get someone to become aware of us. So it's really an awareness phase. So someone to put their hand up and say, look, I'm vaguely interested in what you've got to offer. And so the way that someone would do that is by being in your target market, through your messaging, and then through the media that you're going to reach them. So they're the 3 major blocks of the first phase. So target market, who are we trying to reach? Who is this for? And really being very, very specific about that. Then what kind of messaging is going to land? What's going to make them say, yes, I want that, or yes, that's for me? Because that's the goal of good messaging, where someone says, yes, that's for me. And the problem that most people have with messaging is they try to go too broad. They think, look, if I cast a wide net, then I'll get more people in my funnel. And it's counterintuitive, but it's actually less. When something's general, you kind of ignore it. You think, they create a laundry list of products or services or who it's for or whatever else, and it doesn't land. But if you've got knee pain and someone says, hey, we fix knee pain, then you're going to say, wow, that is for me. I'm going to click on that. But if someone says, we will help people with knee pain, with headaches, with back pain, with whatever, like a whole laundry list, it's kind of like, it doesn't have the same effect. It's like, All right. Well, another generalist. So you want to have a message that really lands with your target audience. And then finally, the bridge between your target market and your message is your media. What media are you going to use to reach them? Now, obviously, with a book, Amazon's absolutely a critical medium. The Facebook, Instagram, online, offline. So where does my audience live, so to speak, online? And then how am I going to reach them? What media am I going to use to reach them? So that's the before phase of the one-page marketing plan. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it does.
Perfect.
Sorry, I was scrambling for the unmute button. So you've got the before phase, which that's the starting point. So if we're going back to kind of this visualizing this grid, so we got the before phase at the top, and then you said the next phase is the during phase.
The next phase is the during phase. So the during phase is where we take people from being vaguely interested in what we've got to offer to becoming a paying client. So that with that, we do lead capture, we do lead nurturing, and then we take them through finally to sales conversion. So from a book perspective, that would be around how do we capture attention? How do we get them on our mailing list? How do we continue that conversation? And then how do we convert them either to buying the book or buying the upsell from the book or buying your course, whatever it is that you're selling. So taking people from being vaguely interested in what you've got to offer. So maybe they've clicked on your ad, maybe they've opted in on your mailing list, maybe they've called your office or whatever it is. So how do we take them from that to sales conversion? So it's really lead capture, lead nurturing, and then sales conversion is the during phase. And then finally, we get into the after phase, and that's the final 3 blocks. And a lot of people believe marketing is finished when you've made the sale, but in my experience, nothing could be further from the truth. That's the real money is made in the after phase. And the after phase is concerned with how do we deliver an awesome customer experience? How do we increase customer lifetime value? And then how do we create a really virtuous cycle through a referral loop? How do we get orchestrate and stimulate those referrals? So basically, there's those 9 blocks split up into 3 major phases. So that's what the one-page marketing plan is. If you're listening to this, you can visualize it. You can also download a copy of the one-page marketing plan canvas. It's free on my website. I'm sure there'll be links to all of this, but it's at successwise.com. You can download a free copy of the canvas, and it'll take you through those 9 steps and 3 phases.
Cool. And that's what I was about to ask. Is there a specific link where people can go to download the canvas or the worksheet?
Yeah, the best place is successwise.com, and it'll be just there on the homepage. So we're practicing what we're preaching. The framework is the star of the show. So it's the book, it's the template, it's the course. So and it really, I'm proud that there's been over 500,000 people who've gone through this whole framework, which is really, really
Holy
cool.
cow.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So talk to me about how can authors use this one-page marketing plan to better sell their book? And feel free to use your book as a case study on how you've done it.
Yeah. So no surprise, we've got our own one-page marketing plan in place. And so we're very, very clear about our target market. We're very, very clear about our messaging. But the thing I would say is if you're marketing anything, you need a plan. And especially if you're marketing a book. A book launch has so many moving parts. There's the production, there's the distribution, there's the marketing, and it's a complex thing to market. I was listening to someone, I think it was Seth Godin the other day, who was saying, and he's right. If you've got a YouTube channel, you can get a video that's got millions and millions of views. It's not really a big deal. There are videos that have got billions of views. Whereas if you sell 1 million copies of a book, that is like a smash hit beyond anything in the publishing space. So it's kind of hard to sell books, right? To some extent. So you've got to have a plan. Whenever you're dealing with anything complex, and professionals have plans, so pilots have a flight plan, the military has a military operations plan, your doctor has a medical treatment plan. And so if you're going to be marketing something, you need a marketing plan because professionals have plans. So if you're planning to be a professional author or a professional thought leader, you need to have a plan about how you're going to be marketing yourself. So it's incredibly important to do that. And this is really here to help you go from zero to hero when it comes to planning your marketing and doing it in a easy to understand framework that will take you through it step by step, from someone not knowing that you exist to being a raving fan who buys more from you and who refers new business to you.
Yeah. And so I want to walk through these kind of 9 steps at a glance, and just dive in. So with some of your book stuff. So you've got target market, message to the target market, and then media that you would use to reach the target market.
Yeah.
What would you say those 3 things are for this book, for the one-page marketing plan?
Yeah. So I'm very, very clear on who my target market is. So I wrote this for the confused business owner, small business owner. They're doing maybe $0 to $20 million in revenue. They've already got a business that that's working, but they want to kind of level it up. They're open to personal development. Obviously, someone who's a book reader is into personal development, generally speaking. They're usually already spending money on advertising. Often they're selling pretty high ticket items as well. I've got an age group. So I'm very, very clear about who that is. So if you're an author, you want to be very, very clear who is going to be my reader. So is it going to be young adults? Is it going to be older people? Is it going to be someone who's got a particular problem? Maybe you solve a very, very specific problem. So you want to be very, very clear about who that is, because the other thing is that you need to be aware of, and I'm sure you've spoken to your audience about this, Chandler, is that the Amazon algorithm is really good at finding like audiences, right? So if you're kind of just all over the place, scattered, the Amazon algorithm is going to have a lot of trouble trying to figure out who is this book for. Whereas if you're very, very clear on who this book is for, and Amazon sees, hey, the same type of people keep buying this book, that's when the algorithm kicks in, and it knows to recommend Chandler this book because Chandler looks like one of the other people who buy this book. So being very, very clear from it as an author who your people are is very, very important. I think it's Seth Godin who says stuff for your people, not people for your stuff, right? Meaning find your audience first and then give them what they need, rather than creating something and then trying to find people for it. Yeah. So
that's so great. And the riches are in the niches, as they say. So get specific about who you're helping. So we're going to talk through the some of the first phases, and then you touched on step 4 already, which is the lead capture system, which you do that through the book, and it's by creating the framework, it's creating resources, it's a way to get folks who Amazon wouldn't give you their contact info. Exactly. So there's additional bonuses and stuff like that. Then you've touched on number 5 as well, the lead nurturing system. And so communicating with them kind of beyond the book, asking for reviews, things like that. Yeah, you want to say something like
that? And I think, I've seen a lot of authors do the additional bonuses, and I have to say, I rarely go to the additional bonuses unless it's something super compelling. But if you can make the book almost useless without the bonus, without the reference outside material, I think that's a better way. And I'm not saying purposely disable your book, but if you're working with a framework, then the template or the app or whatever it is going to be pretty key to it, right? So if it's like, hey, get a bonus chapter or whatever, I can take that or leave it. But if it's like central to the concept of the book, then I'm definitely going to go to the website, download the app, download the framework, whatever it is. So I would think about the opt-in mechanism very, very carefully about what is going to really compel someone to go and opt in on my list, and make it a key part of edition of the book as well.
That's super smart. Let's talk about the kind of point six in the plan, which is the sales conversion strategy. What does this look like for you? Like, how do you use this book as an entry point into your business? And I guess you could consider the sales conversion strategy being them purchasing the book, but then I
Yeah.
think what's interesting is the beyond the book piece, like you kind of mentioned earlier. So, how do you take someone from book buyer to okay, now they're doing business with you? What does that look like?
Yeah, yeah. So I've got probably the world's simplest funnel. I know people go crazy with funnels and upsells and downsells and all this crazy stuff. And I like all of that stuff as well. But I've got probably the world's simplest funnel. It's people read the book, they opt in on the mailing list. On the mailing list, I give them a lot of value. So I'm not just spamming them and trying to upsell them and stuff like that, but I'm giving them a lot of value. And I think about it this way. If they were paying to subscribe to my mailing list, I want to make it worth their money to subscribe. So I want people so enamored with the content that they would actually pay money to subscribe to my mailing list. And I'm sure if I put a paywall in there, I would get a lot of subscribers. So I think of it that way. So I think of my mailing list as a product. And then I do have a commercial message attached to it. I use Dean Jackson's super signature where, hey, by the way, we've also got the course. By the way, we've also got the coaching and all of that. But what I do in my emails is I encourage interaction. I encourage replies. So I'll say, look, reply and tell me what you're doing with XYZ or whatever. And so the reason I do that is because that creates conversations, and we know that conversations lead to conversions. If you're selling anything of reasonable value, you're going to need to get into a conversation, whether it be by email, through a discovery or strategy call or whatever else, before you make the sale. And sometimes that's really fast. It could be through just a back and forth email or through a checkout page or whatever. But really understand that conversations lead to conversions. So the goal of your nurturing phase should be to create some of those conversations. So ask questions of your audience, have those back and forth interactions and replies. And so for me, it's a very organic thing. If I had to wake up every morning and think I've got to make 20 cold calls, I would hate my life. But whereas I get to open up my email inbox and I see people have replied to some of my autoresponder emails, and some people are asking me to appear on their podcast, some people are asking me to speak at their event, some people are asking for coaching, some people are asking to buy the course. That's an awesome way to do business. I love that, where it creates a lot of goodwill and a lot of inbound. I don't have to do hard sells and do these crazy offers and upsells, downsells, funnels, and all of that sort of stuff. I'm just really, the goal of my nurturing phase is creating conversations with people, and I love having conversations with people, and people like feeling heard and understood. And so I think that's such a natural and organic way of selling. I used to hate selling because I used to think that selling used to be all about pressuring people and weird closes and all of that sort of stuff. But that just makes you feel weird, and it makes other people feel weird. So for me, selling is now very pleasurable because it's really about having conversations.
Yep, that's great. And when it's done well, sales is service,
It
and
is.
serving and helping people. What would you say like the pie chart of revenue total? Is it largely book sales? Is it largely the business that comes from the book? Is it speaking in tandem? I mean, obviously with COVID and all that stuff, there's not a ton of speaking happening besides virtual. But what does that kind of revenue pie chart look like for you?
Yeah. So you would be surprised how much I do from the book. I think we do well into the six figures in royalties from the book, but it's definitely not the majority of the business. So if I had to pull a percentage, I would say maybe the book sales are 10% of the revenue of the business. And I'm self-published, so I make more than a published author would. But yeah, we do well into the six figures in book royalties every year. And now I'm working on my next book. But yeah, I see the book as one of the best lead capture and lead nurturing mechanisms, because people come in really warm. They're like, when
Yeah.
people come in on a discover a strategy call, they're not like hey, what is this and how much does it cost and what is this about? They're like, hey, I read your book. I understand your process. I love what you're doing or whatever. How do we get started? Right. So you're having conversations at a much higher level. And I'll tell you a story actually. Uh, I don't consult in the corporate space much anymore, but I used to a few years ago. And I walked into a pitch meeting where we would pitch to do like a six-figure consulting deal. And I walked in, and the whole executive team is there, and they all had a copy of the book. And the CMO of the company asked me to autograph her copy of the book, and I'm like, inside I was like smiling. I'm like, they're asking. I'm here at a pitch meeting, and they're asking me to autograph the book. The next guy is going to come in with his flimsy business card and his little pitch deck or whatever, and of course, yeah, it was a slam dunk. It's like, and I think of a book as like the nuclear weapon of business cards. It's just such a powerful tool as a business card. So, of course, I won that deal, and it was no competition. So, if you're in the coach or consulting or thought leadership space, having a book as a business card is so powerful.
That's awesome. I was writing that down because I always say, a book is the new business card, but I've never heard a book is the nuclear weapon of business cards. Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, I got a couple of final questions for you, Allan, and two
Cool.
of these I'm personally curious on. I know I saw where your book is. So I'll kind of go lightning round. I saw where your book it's being used as a textbook in multiple colleges.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Well, that was a surprise to me. I mean, which is really, really funny because I dropped out of business school. So
Same.
now, yeah. So now, it happened a couple of years ago where one or two colleges wrote back to us and said, hey, we're using your book in our entrepreneurship course. Do you have any teaching resources? And we were like, what? Like they're using our book in their college course. And then more and more came out of the woodwork, and then we started actively marketing it to some of the professors, and so we got take up there. And what I like about that is, every term or semester, a whole new batch of students order copies of the book, and we've got the university bookshops asking us where do we get copies of the book and all that sort of thing. So it came about by accident, but through that accident, we started purposely marketing it to them as well, which is really, really cool. And we know that people who graduate from these programs are going to go on to be marketing people in companies and things like that, which is really, really cool. So I think the lesson from there is to really watch out for unexpected places where your book is being used, and then double down on those. So that was kind of really cool.
That's a great lesson. Totally separate topic. Foreign rights. You published the book in multiple languages, it looks like, and I noticed the Spanish version is selling pretty well and has like 200 something reviews on Amazon. So self-published book, foreign rights. Why did you do it? How did you do it? Like any lessons learned for other self-published authors looking to sell the foreign rights to their book?
Yeah. We've got the book now in about 17 or 18 languages. So every few months, and 4 copies or 4 or 5 copies show up at my office in some language. I just had Polish come in. So most of the foreign rights deals are done by like full on foreign publishers. So they will usually inquire. They'll say, other rights in Polish or Spanish or whatever available, and if they are, we'll say it is, and then we'll get into a conversation around royalties and advance and all of that. The Spanish edition is the only edition that we've actually self-published ourselves as the foreign edition, and I think I'm going to do a German edition as well myself, because I keep getting requests from people in Germany. I think it's a good market. So I think I'm going to do my own translation. All the other translations have been done by publishers who've come to us and bought the rights from us and do it. And I think our most unusual country is Mongolia. So we've got a Mongolian edition, which is crazy.
That's awesome.
And
what a cool feeling.
It is cool, and it's I don't know, fortunately or unfortunately, in some regions it's been pirated. So in Iran, it's been pirated. So I get fan mail from people in Iran saying, "Hey, love your book," and all of this sort of stuff. And when that first happened, I thought, "Hang on, we didn't translate our book into Persian, and so someone's taken it and pirated it in Persian."
No
So
way.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah. And I know we're right at time here, but quick follow up on that. How do you decide whether to self publish or sell the foreign right? Like Spanish self published foreign rights, you're going to,
Yep.
looks like do it in German versus
So
other countries you sold.
yeah, so most of the time I just, because if I have no connections into that country, I have no one that I know, I don't really know the culture or the language or whatever, I'll just sell the rights to the publisher. So 9 times out of 10, I'll do that. But some bigger markets like Spanish, and I do have connections into Spanish-speaking countries, and same with Germany, again, big market, and I do have some connections into there. So that's where I'll take kind of a chance and do my own, because it is expensive to pay for translation. You'd have to do typesetting and editing all over again, and so there is quite an investment. So markets where you understand the culture, maybe you've got some connections into there, you've got some reasonable way of getting in there, then I think it makes sense to self-publish. If there are markets that you just have no idea, you don't understand, you don't know anyone there. So for example, for me, Chinese, Japanese, a lot of the Asian sort of cultures, I just have no idea. I don't know anyone there. I don't understand the culture very well. So I just let the publisher run with it. So, and just sell the
Nice.
foreign rights there.
Allan, it's been awesome. Knowing what you know now, what would be kind of your parting piece of advice or your advice to Allan from how many ever years ago and all the other Allans out there that are thinking about writing their first book?
Well, to me, I won't give you book specific advice, but I'll give you product specific advice, because I think a book is a product, is the best marketer wins every time. That's something that a mentor taught me, and I wish I'd learned that much earlier. I wish the best product won every time. I wish the most deserving people got paid the most. I wish all of that sort of stuff, but that's not reality. So you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. And so really in life, we see that the highest paid people are the people who are the best at promotion, the people who are the best at marketing. So the best marketer wins every time. So I'd encourage you to think of yourself as a marketer of books rather than just an author or someone who's writing about a particular concept. Is, the best marketer wins every time. So your job is to become a marketer of what you do.
Yeah. As Robert Kiyosaki would say, it's called best-selling author,
Best-selling
not
author.
best-writing author.
Exactly. I love that.
Yeah. So, Allan, this has been awesome, man. Where can people go to find out more about you, to buy your book, and to find out more about what you're up to?
Yeah, so the book is the one-page marketing plan. It's incredibly popular on Audible, so audible.com. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you buy books. My website is successwise.com, and you can grab a free copy of the one-page marketing plan canvas there, and join in the conversation. I'd love to hear from everybody.
That's awesome. Allan, thanks again.
My pleasure, Chandler.
Thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of the Self-Publishing School podcast. I know there's so many places that you can be spending your time. There's other podcasts that you could be listening to, YouTube channels that you could be watching. So thank you so much. It means the world. Now, I want you to do 3 things right now if you found this episode helpful. All right, number 1, I don't know if you know this, but we've got a YouTube channel. It's a companion channel to this podcast. All the video versions of the episode are on the YouTube channel. So number 1, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Number 2, if you're listening to this podcast wherever, whether this is Spotify, Apple Podcasts, number 2, I want you to subscribe to this podcast right now so you don't miss a future episode. And then number 3, this is probably the most important, leave a review on the podcast. All right, reviews are super important and help the podcast get discovered by other people. So number 3, leave a review on the podcast. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next episode. If you're on the fence about scheduling a publishing consultation call with my team, maybe you're not quite ready for that, I've got some free training that I think will be really helpful for you. All right, all you have to do is go to register to sign up. Go to selfpublishing.com/free training. When you do, you're also going to get a free digital copy of my new book, Published, And on that training, you're going to learn the next steps of how to implement with your book. So how to write, how to publish, how to launch successfully. So go to register right now at selfpublishing.com/free training. I'll see you there.